Welcome to the Sonya Buchanan Show, where we inspire one life, one smile at a time. Great day, everyone. It is time for the Sonya Buchanan Show, where we focus on one life, one smile at a time. Listen, you guys, we're going to have a really great show today. I'm going to present something that I deem to be very interesting in this time that we're living. And let me go ahead and give you our title. It's called Compulsive Alignment. And we're going to dive into this discussion right after this commercial. So come back and join us. We'll be right back.
Oh my God, I gotta tell you, I was having a moment and I decided to surf the net. And that's when I came across this website called Comforting Promises, which is a great website, by the way. And get this. On the website was a featured book called The Journey by Sonya Buchanan that was recently published. So I immediately downloaded the ebook on Kindle because it talked about, having faith for your life purpose. And let me tell you, the book is super great. I was so motivated to get back into the game, pursuing my goals. And you got to get the book because it's worth the read.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Sonya Buchanan Show, where we focus on one life, one smile at a time. Again, our title is called Compulsive Alignment. Well, let me tell you, I think that today's podcast is going to be really interesting. I am going to cover a couple of things. Could be my opinion. It may be true. It may be just a suggestion, maybe a highlight. However it is, today I'm going to talk about it in our podcast. But before we go into the discussion, I want to give the meaning of compulsive. And according to the dictionary, it says compulsive means resulting from or relating to an irresistible urge, especially one that is against one's conscious wishes. Another definition it gives, it says of a person, in parentheses, acting as a result of an irresistible urge. And number 2, it says irresistibly interesting or exciting, compelling. Now, isn't it interesting that we already know what the word compulsive means, but I did want to just give an overview on the podcast so you know exactly what direction we're going. But the one that I really liked was the very first one, resulting from a relating to an irresistible urge, especially one that is against one's conscious wishes. Now, against one's conscious wishes. Now, isn't that interesting? Right now in our world, it appears, according to what is presented before us, by the news or reporting news or videos that's continuously interacting all through our social media of outrageous compulsive behavior. I say it's compulsive behavior because it's erotic. It's really, it pulls us in with things that causes our emotions to get just expounded and emotionally out of order, out of sync. Now, when we talk about things that are in order, they're pretty much very smooth sailing. There are things that is aligned with the universal laws. Things that are aligned with the laws of practicing safety measures. Give you an example. If the law says driving on the highway 65 miles per hour, that would mean the order would be for the people who are driving on that highway will all be in line with the order of driving 65 miles per hour. Of course, we do have those who go outside those measurements. I'm guilty of it at times when I'm traveling. I go beyond 65 miles per hour because I'm trying to get to my destination. That would be a conscious wishes. Against one's conscious wishes. I don't know if it's against my conscious wishes to go outside the 65 miles per hour, but it will be against one's wishes of that particular law. And again, our title is Compulsive Alignment. And when I say that, it's kind of twisted in the title, because when you talk about compulsive and the way the definitions express it, it's to me, it seems as though compulsive alignment is where we are today, where things are happening. We have the Miami hotel just fell apart. We have the floods in China. We have other floods that I've seen on the news. We have all the racial connotations. We have their interactions. I was listening to someone yesterday. She was showing a mansion. I think her and her husband fixes up mansions all over the world. And I was listening to her because I'm fascinated with that. And during her live recording, she made the comment, she says, these are the stairways to the servants, the servant stairways. And after that, she says she apologized for saying that. She said, I'm sorry, y'all. I didn't, don't yell at me. Don't get mad at me because I said that. And I thought about how nervous the woman was just to say the servant stairway. Well, the house was built in 1900. So that, to me, that was an alignment of proper speaking of what she was presenting. It is so radical right now. People are really afraid to just express the truth of what is being presented, and also have to back it up to say, I apologize, that is not to be offended. It's almost we're walking on edges. I'm going somewhere with this because I think that I just want to just talk about a lot of things that's going on and what I'm viewing. I try to keep myself outside of the measures of chaos because of my life and my lifestyle. I like to keep things in order. I do not like to invite chaos into my home. And that is also not watching the news as much. I try to do it on the internet. That means I get to read and choose and pick what I allow into my conscious state. And so therefore I read instead of listening to the news. And when it talks about consciousness against one's will, to me, I think this is what's happening all over the world. The whole earth seems to be in chaos. We have the pandemic in 2020 and it's seeping over in 2021. And we're still dealing with this virus. And then we have the monkey pox. Is it the monkey chicken pox or something? It's just everything seems to be very out of order. And then we have the religion. The churches are starting to come back into the buildings, which is a great thing because I never want to negate from that, because that is something that is part of this whole earth surrounding of order. We cannot leave out religion. As I stated in a podcast previous, we have 7 mountains that is created in different categories. We have religion, we have family, we have government, we have business, we have entertainment, we have media, and then there's education. All these mountains play a significant role in our life, with 7.6 billion people in the world. And with those mountains, there is also a consciousness of order. Now, if you take every one of these mountains, which to me is all the mountains now are like in this sporadic chaos and out of order, globally, with 7.6 billion people in the world, of course, you're going to have, it seems as though the Bible scripture talks about when the end times, we will have rumors of wars, we will have earthquakes, and we will have all these things that gives an indication that Christ is coming back. But I want to talk about that because I know no one's not going to really listen to this part because they're not going to believe what I'm about to say. But anytime when you have these examples of the end times, this is what is signifying right now in our time today. But also, I want to add that this same behavior, rumors of wars and the chaos and the floods and the tornadoes and all these things that we're seeing today is an example, and is resembling there are things out of order. There are things that's out of order, and an only way to smooth it and calm it down is to find out what's out of order and place it back into order, so our earth can become this place of rhythm and calmness. And sometimes in order to bring calmness and serenity, is things have to come out of order in order to get our attention. We have all the racial things. We have the miseducation as far as history. We have so many things that's erupting at the same time, and it seems as though that the end times is coming. Honestly, when you go and read that scripture, it says, when every person have heard the gospel of the kingdom message, not a motivational message, not a religion message, not a I'm going to make you feel good message, not a doing a holy dance, not doing speaking in tongues. He says, but when the message of the kingdom has been preached all over the world. And this is not to offend anyone, but a lot of people are not preaching the kingdom message because they're not understanding what the kingdom message is. So Christ is he's very sincere about his word. He says, when the message of the kingdom has been preached all over the world. So honestly, yeah, Christ is coming one day, but we have to preach the kingdom message. And in order to preach the kingdom message, you have to understand what the kingdom message is and what is it that Christ preached. Because honestly, that's all he talked about. He didn't talk about anything else except the kingdom message. But when we talk about other things other than the kingdom message, I understand it's to edify the body of Christ. That's all I want to say about that. But honestly, with the world seems to be in this chaos, it gives the appearance that this is the end of times and Christ is coming back. No, this is things of out of order. This is chaos of out of order. This is an indication that there are so many things that over time has elapsed of not paying attention to our personal life or to our business life or to our this, and then things will start to erupt. You cannot continue to go on out of order and think that it's going to be a smooth sailing. Sometimes the earth will, it's like an eruption. You put baking soda with vinegar, and you can't mix those two elements together without it exploding. This is, to me, what's happening right now around our global world. You're mixing two substances. Mixing two substances, and now it's exploding. And now we're trying to find out, how do we bring things in order? We bring things back in order is doing what we were supposed to do in the first place. I was sitting there thinking about just coming off of social media and just going into my hiding place and just hide. Because when I started on this journey, I was shown at the beginning the ending, what I'm supposed to do. And every time I'm telling you guys this, what I want to express is individually making sure that your life is in order, what you're supposed to be doing inwardly. What are you supposed to be doing? If you're supposed to be amending to your family, if you're supposed to be doing a particular job, if you're supposed to be doing a particular assignment, do that. Don't, wave to the right, to the left, because it brings out of order. And it's really interesting because there are many times during probably the last course of 2 to 3 years, I just wanted to just leave and go back into my little life and just enjoy the rest of my life, And I would get this indication and pull, and I would have to come back and do it because I know this is what I'm supposed to do. Whether I have a lot of people over here listening or not, or whether I have no people listening or not, I still have to do this. It brings chaos in my life when I don't do that. And that's the same way. We cannot measure what we're supposed to do while in order based on what we see outwardly. We have to come in alignment what we are feeling inwardly, so outwardly will be blessed. And what's happening is consciously what's happening inwardly. If things are in chaos and out of order, it affects our outwardly. And this is what's happening globally. Things that for years, people call it moral behavior. But I don't want to touch on moral behavior because moral behavior may be different for everybody else. But one of the things that I do know that is a common denominator for everyone is love. The word love. Love is one that is dimensionally touches each and every one of us, but everyone don't understand how to operate in love. Unconsciously operate in love, consciously operate in love. And love is the only thing, and I know people take that word and it's so sporadic, they just throw it around, but love is the common denominator that we all embrace that will bring the peace and comedy, that will bring the peace and order in our world today. And we have to start individually one by one. And it's like a domino effect. You start out and you just go around the world to bring some kind of calmness. Because honestly, I do not believe that we are in that stage where the prophecy of the word of God states that when we start to see all these things, Christ is coming back. Yes, Christ is coming back. But we also have to understand that the word of God says that when the kingdom message is preached around the world to every living creature, and we question, are we preaching the kingdom message to every living creature? And if we are preaching the kingdom message, it's the ones that's preaching the kingdom message is understanding what the kingdom message is. It's a lot of things that brings a factor into this. I also want to talk about when I started out on this journey, and I remember there was a clarion call. And when you hear a clarion call from the heavenly places, that means that the Spirit of the Lord is speaking. And I knew it was time for me to draw near and start to walk out really who I am. And I was not the only one who was hearing that message that it was time to shift things in our personal life. And we did. And I remember that many of us that was on this journey with me have left and said, I no longer want to do this. This is, I don't know, maybe I'll pick it up later on. But even when we do that, it brings things out of order because there are assignments, there are alignment, there's attachment, there's a people who are attached to your family and to your life that is connected to whatever the assignment is. I truly do not believe that anybody in this world was an accident. And because of the very person that is supposed to be here is attached to a particular DNA for a particular assignment for DNA. So when you decide you no longer want to do what you were supposed to do here in this world, the people who are connected to you, there's a gap. Now, God, he can always fulfill that gap by giving that talent or that gifting or that particular assignment to somebody else, although it was assigned to you. So that also brings chaos and out of order. It is so important right now that we find out where we are supposed to be, what exactly we're supposed to say and speak, to affect, to give, to love, to give that nurturing to that particular place where you are that day. It's very important because right now, like I stated, our earth is in chaos. It's out of order according to the news that is presented. Now, everybody's life is not in chaos and out of order. Everybody's life is not in a uphill of situations because everybody's life is not out of order. I can bring order in my world by simply doing simple things. do what I'm supposed to do, like this podcast. Like doing my assignment, what I was called to do, whether it's on a large scale or whether it's on a small scale, whether it's on just one person who comes over and listens to this message could change the whole course of things. We never know. Whatever you do today could affect one person, and that one person can affect millions of people. We never know. But society and social media has our eyes looking at, I have to have all this big this and big that. And it's something that it's in every one of us. Our nature is to be an influencer. And our nature is to be a leader. And every one of us are a leader. So I can understand that. That is something that God gave us. And that is something that He, to me, is aligned with who He is. But we have to start out finding out what is our assignment and get in that order and alignment so we can bring peace and serenity and bring this resolution to a lot of things that seems to be questionable. And I want you to just kind of, if things are in my order, because I had to look at some things in my house, you guys, and I don't want to get too, practical or too political. I just wanted to just come here and just talk about things of order, bringing things into a order. I have to look at my home at times, things here, and just to share a little bit with you, there are times when things are starting to fall apart, such as my deck. And I had, if you follow me on social media, I got my deck fixed and it was falling apart. It was old, it was dry, rotted, it was just falling apart. So in 2019, I decided I wanted to start repairing it myself. So I started taking some of the poles down, and I was just going to replace the planks. But when 2020 came, things become very expensive. Instead of, a piece of wood to replace my deck was $5, maybe about 2x4. But when 2020 came, that one piece of wood now is $19. So I stopped doing it. So now I have a half deck that's fallen apart, and it was in chaos. But the order and the disorder was that it had been 3 years that I've been working on this deck. That was out of order. And it came to a place where I had to get it in order. It didn't matter whether or not that the wood was $19 an hour. There was something in me that it kept tugging on me, an urgency for me to get that in order. And because it was out of order, it was a trickle effect. That was out of order, then something else came out of order, all because of that one piece of item that I should have taken care of 3 years prior when it was a cheaper wood, but I kept just being lethargic about it and did not. So 3 years now it has erupted. And I had to get it done. There was not even a choice in the matter. But let me tell you how faithful when you choose to, whether you was like me, waited and waited and waited. But the universal law was not waiting. It was my decision to get in order. And let me explain what I'm talking about by getting things in order. It's not one of those, because I waited so long, now time is going to wait a long time before it fulfill itself. No, it's me getting in order, whether I take 5 years to get in order. But once I make that decision about getting things in order, it's almost as the universal law had been waiting on me to get it in order. And so it moves very fast. So most often it's waiting on you to move, especially when you have waited and time has lapped. It has lapped over and you're supposed to have done it. But let me explain what I'm talking about here, because like I stated, that 3 years I suppose I had got that deck fixed, And I kept waiting and waiting. And then all of a sudden it erupted where it wasn't even a moment where a day late that I needed to get that deck fixed. I had to get it done. And it was immediate. Didn't care anything about the prices, didn't care anything about, we were in a pandemic or anything. I had to get this done this month, and it had to be immediate. And let me tell you how the universal law works, because it's been waiting on me to get it done. When I had to make that decision and get it done, and I'm thinking, how am I going to get this? My builder who comes over to my home that does things, he was completely busy. He did not have time to immediately get this done, and I needed to get it done. So I sporadically had to find someone that I don't know, because like I said, I have a builder that I know personally who has a key to my home, that I trust, and I've been knowing them for a long time. And I would just call them and say, hey, I need da-da-da-da done. Whether I'm here or not, they just come here to do it. But now I'm having to put myself in a place where I have to trust somebody else to come in and trust that they're going to do a great job. Well, because I had made that decision to put this in order, the leading of picking the right person, I was on point, because I saw a couple of names and I just wasn't feeling it. I had to rely on my inward in prayer to say, I got to get this done. And when you do that, now the universal law or your prayers are now being answered, is leading you to divine order, because it's been waiting on you to get in divine order. I hope I'm making sense to you about this order thing consciously. Not something that's going against your will, but consciously going against the order of your will. And when I found the right person, contacted with them, they said, oh, we can do that. And, on 2 days, after the call. And I said, well, how long is it going to take? Because I'm thinking that repairing a deck is going to take a long time. Oh, we'll have it done in the same day. And I'm thinking, wait, I wasn't expecting this fast. They came in and they repaired it in 7 hours. And it was done. And then the next day, when I notified my mortgage company, my insurance company, and all these people who are looking at me, because I don't know what kind of insurance you have, but I have an insurance that comes over and look at my house to inspect it every single year. That's what they do. I don't know if everybody else does that, but that's what they do. And it was done right in the nick of time, because 2 days later, here come my insurance company now evaluating my house, looking at that. That's what divine order is. And now things are back smooth and sailing, and there's no chaos, that things are starting to come into alignment. This is what's happening with our world. We have to identify where is the out of order, so we can identify it, because the universal law is waiting on that order, and it would immediately put things back into its significant order, where it brings calm and peace. And to me, I truly believe that order brings that calm and peace. And when you have calm and peace, then love is surfaced back. Then people come back into their conscious moral thought process, where we are identifying care and love and looking at someone else's. Because right now we're focused on our life, because our life is the most important. We have to get our life in order for the chaos and love and inspection of everyone else. Now, we do have people who are still looking at that, and we have not negate from looking at other people's lives and bringing order. But when I'm saying that, far as a global stance, far as the world, far as the 7.6 billion people around the world, far as the cries that are still dealing with the virus and all these things, and financial destitutions, and jobs are overlapping and letting go, and just we're starting to recreate ourselves into this place of who am I, where am I, because 2020 did kind of shake everybody up to say, where is the order here? Where is the sync of rhythm in my life or in my work world? What do we do? And to me, we have to start one step at a time by bringing order within ourselves. Am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing at this present moment? Do I have my house in order? What is it that I have allowed to let go and I ignored it? And we have to put things back in order. Honestly, it's one of those every morning checks where you ask yourself, what is the order for today? Because it's very important for that to be asked so that the rhythm and the moment of impacting your personal world, and if you have a family, to impacting your family's world and bring in order for our kids of the future. Because their future is going to be completely different than grandma's. Their future is looking at people going to Mars, traveling outside the space at a time. So we have to be in a moment where we have to explain, how do we explain these out of time and then relativity of light moment and children now. It's a completely different, and I know people, they say, oh, I remember when grandma this. Well, this is a whole different concept. I give you an example, and I'm going to let this podcast be ended, but giving an example what transitioning is. And I'm going to use biblical alignment because it'll bring some kind of foundation. And the biblical alignment, when we talk about transitioning into a total different era, let's talk about when Moses was building the tabernacle. And the tabernacle was an example of worship, how we sacrifice at the beginning, and then you go into the gate and it's the holy place, and then you go into the Holy of Holies. But they had to build the tabernacle, and this was a place of worship for them. And then it transitioned out of the tabernacle into the transition of David. David was a praise and a worshiper. And he had the tent where there was a symbolism of worship and praise. It was completely different from the tabernacle, but it transitioned into the tent. And we're talking about the Ark of the Covenant. And the Ark of the Covenant is a representation of your heart. The love of your heart. Some people call it Jesus, but Jesus dwells in your heart. So I always say heart. That's what the tabernacle is. It's a sanctified place of worship where your heart is. And your heart is the things that brings order, and you just doing what you're supposed to do. And then after David, of the tent of worshiping and praising, then it transitioned to David's son, Solomon, which was the temple. And now the temple basically, Solomon, he didn't fight in wars. He sat there and he operated out of wisdom. He operated out of riches and blessings and being appreciative of what you have. Now it's the temple, the Solomon's temple, where the Ark of the Covenant rested. Okay, these are the transitionings. They were all totally different. And to me, I think this is where we are, and it's transitioning into the digital world. And it goes on to speak of those transitioning. I didn't want to go into a Bible study, but I just wanted to give it an example of transitioning. It was the tabernacle, the tent, and the Solomon's temple, and then Christ, the temple, Christ, ecclesia, which is the church body. And although I gave that biblical example, we're talking about different worlds in the 7 mountains, and it's the same thing in the transitioning. We're going into the digital world. We're now traveling outside of the realm of the earth. And all of these, we have to think in factors of the education, the intellect, the knowledge base. And we cannot continue to operate out of the same old systems. This is to me is proven that the chaos is being erupted, that we no longer can operate out of racism, a hatred, undefiable racism. You can't explain why I don't like you, because love is definitely not there. These are some of the things that to me think that the chaos and disorder is erupting. And if we can go back and find order and find love and start from our place with us and let it go outward, our earth began to start to come back into a place of rhythm and a place of calmness. That is my opinion about this. And again, our name of our podcast today is Compulsive Alignment. And we have to bring order back into our individual lives so our outwardly and people around us and the globe and everything start to settle and start to calm and we start to live. People say we're not going to go back to our norm. Of course, we're not going to go back to the norm, because anytime when you tear anything that was whole, it's not going to go back to the original state. But it will have a significant symbolism of stating that this will happen, but this is the outcome. I truly believe that anytime when anything is erupted, the outcome is always going to be it's always going to teach us experience, it's teach us a lesson. It also teaches us some vital things that we can carry over to future, to generation. And pretty much that's what I want to talk about, you guys. Compulsive alignment is our message for today. But again, I want to thank you for coming back to our podcast and listening. And until next week, this is your girl, Sonya Buchanan, with I was about to say Comfort Promises, but this is not Comfort Promises. This is the Sonya Buchanan Show. Until next week, bye, you guys. Thank you for joining our podcast today. The podcast was produced and edited by Sonya Buchanan. For more information about the host, you can go to sonyabuchanan.com. For information about Comfort and Promises broadcast community, you can go to comfortandpromises.com. Thank you for listening to our broadcast, The Sonya Buchanan Show, where we focus on one life, one smile at a time. Until next time, bye, you guys.